That's right. Speaking of hotness, how about the Denver Broncos? You said it yesterday, Mace. Hottest team in the league right here.
Yeah. 6-1 over their last 7. Nobody's better than that in that span. Unequivocally, the hottest team in the league, even with that loss to the Houston Texans. That's the thing. You can be hot and lose a game, right? It's just 6 out of 7 now instead of 5 in a row. Or it would be 7 in a row if they beat the Texans.
Right.
And you think back to some of the early season results, and even with 70-20, how close this team is to being in first place. Think about that.
Yeah,
they could have been in first place. They could have been in first place.
Orange and blue today. Cecil, Lammey, Andrew Mason. What are the Broncos' playoff chances? And Mace, why is the path clear?
The path is clear because if you look at the games after Detroit, you've potentially got 3 backup quarterbacks, with the news today that Justin Herbert of the Chargers is out for the season after surgery on his right index finger. So after dealing with Jared Goff and the high-powered Detroit Lions offense, you're going to have probably Bailey Zappi and the Patriots on Christmas Eve, Easton Stick and the Chargers on New Year's Eve, and could be Aiden O'Connell, could be Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo could give you some problems, but if it's Aiden O'Connell, and it may not be O'Connell by then because the returns are diminishing on O'Connell, and there's question now over whether he's even going to start for the Raiders on Thursday night against the Chargers. But you're looking at a potential of the Broncos facing 3 backup quarterbacks to close the season. 2 of those games at home. All of those teams had losing records. The Broncos are in a pretty darn good spot, better than their current number 9 seed would indicate.
And I like the fact that they control their own destiny, Mason. I like the fact that, and how many times have we seen the opposite of this, where teams will play down to their competition? I'm mainly thinking about the Steelers, but we've seen it with the Broncos as well. When you're up against an inferior opponent, I don't care if it's Easton Stick or Bailey Zappi, it's not going to be Malik Cunningham. He signs with the Ravens today. That's a really good signing. It's our 4th quarterback. Anyway, take care of business against the teams you should beat. That's what we're seeing from the Broncos this year since they've gotten hot.
Yeah, another Louisville quarterback going to Baltimore, right?
They were teammates. Cunningham a redshirt year in 2017. So he was teammates with Lamar Jackson, if you can believe that. That was a long time ago.
And you like to have reserves who have similar stylistic traits. I mean, that's why Huntley is a very good fit behind Lamar Jackson. They're not exactly the same, but you can keep a lot of the RPO stuff in there, right?
And Huntley's an unrestricted free agent next year.
He's going to be interesting when he gets to the market. If a team is looking for a quarterback maybe on a little bit of a value cost, some teams are going to look at him.
Yeah.
Some
teams will look at him. There you go. The not Eddie Murphy gif.
I've never been able to believe that wasn't Eddie Murphy. I thought for years it was.
Did I send you the link on the little mini documentary about it? I think I might have sent you the link. Yeah. So I think it was Vice that had that.
There's documentaries about everything. There's a documentary out now about the Star Wars holiday special from 1978.
Why haven't you sent me that link? Got to send me that link.
You have to buy it. Like I saw it. Like you could buy it on. There's got to be some streaming service that has it, but you can buy it on like Apple, thing for like you can rent it for $9.99, buy it or rent it for $4.99, buy it for $9.99.
Right. Well,
I saw an ad for it today.
A documentary on this Broncos season and the turnaround. I could see it happening, and the path to the playoffs is clear. So just take care of business. And is it too much to ask for the offense to maybe a little more Brandon Johnson, maybe fire on cylinders more?
Well, I mean, what's the trust level in Jerry Jeudy right now after the game that he had on Sunday? The trust level in Marvin Mims after that early interception. Not a good throw, but also a ball that he should be able to catch. And clearly Mims not getting separation on the short underneath stuff. It's crying out for somebody to step into the void, right? Maybe it's Lucas Kroll getting out there as another tight end onto the 53. They're going to have to put him on the 53 if he's going to play again. So maybe that's not likely for this game, although we'll see. The Broncos do have some injury concerns going into that, and we'll get into that as the show goes on.
We will get into that as the show goes on, and talking playoffs. It's real
Playoffs?
and it's here. That's right. I just hope we can win a game. And that's why I say, Mace, I am not in the it's okay if you lose to the Lions. You aren't either. Okay. You've never said it's okay if they lose to the Lions. But a lot of us went into this back half of the schedule. We're like, okay, Detroit and Houston, those ones are going to be tougher. And then hopefully win the rest of them. I still think they can beat Detroit. Again, later in the week, we'll get specific, but like, no, man, win them all. Make that playoff run and be at least that tough out. You said it yesterday. I'm going to steal it tonight for Denver Sports Tonight. They're a legit contender.
They are. And a game like this will establish that. Because if you beat Detroit, think about what you will have accomplished in the course of this run where it would be 7 wins out of 8. Among your wins would have been Kansas City at home, Green Bay at home. And look, the Packers, even though they lost last night, they're right there in the playoff conversation in the NFC. At Buffalo, right there in the playoff conversation in the AFC. Cleveland, now that they seem to be getting enough from Joe Flacco, Cleveland actually appears to be in really good shape for a wild card now. By the way, I mean, you look at these teams kind of going through quarterbacks. There's a reason why the right thing to do was to bring in a veteran like a Josh Dobbs for Minnesota, or bring in a veteran like Joe Flacco. I mean, Cleveland might be sitting at 9-4 with still a chance to win that division if they brought in Joe Flacco sooner. Think about that for a moment. I mean, do the Broncos-Browns game with Flacco out there running that offense and sticking to his marks might have been a completely different game if Flacco had been out there. But
Right.
But that's the thing. I mean, I know you want to develop players, develop quarterbacks, but when you're legitimately in the playoff conversation, you've just got to find the best player and play that player, even if the long-term outlook and potential for that quarterback is pretty dim. I mean, Joe Flacco's not going to be on the Browns after this season, right?
Right.
This is he's a temp, but he's a temp that could get them in the playoffs and give them a chance to win.
Yeah, he's a temp that could make him a tough out in the postseason. So you're like, damn, how'd we lose to Cleveland?
Yeah. Well, and that's a team. Cleveland and the Broncos are both really interesting because what you're asking is just enough offense to complement a terrific defense, right? Now, the league rankings don't reflect that for the Broncos. You have to look at the league rankings over the last, say, 9 weeks rather than the league rankings that include the first 4. Because you put that 70-point game in, changes everything. So, but Broncos are riding their defense. Cleveland's riding their defense. Actually, you know what? That's a good transition to bring up something that rose from JaQuan McMillian, because in the locker room after Sunday's game, McMillian, who of course had a huge game, a sack, had a strip sack fumble taken off the board by instant replay. Yeah, that was a good call. I know there's some people who think, it should have been a fumble. Stick's arm was moving forward. The ball was still in his hand. It was as clear as it gets, okay, in terms of the rule itself. But still, another big game for JaQuan McMillian. And it was interesting to talk to him about sort of the arc of this defense. Because remember, when they allowed 70 points, he was watching from the sideline. Then they came together. Him playing more is a huge part of this defense coming together. So let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, we just didn't let that define who we was as his defense. And after that game, obviously, it wasn't a great feeling, and we just came together like we didn't want to ever feel that feeling again. So everybody just doing whatever they can to make the team better and focus on the details and doing their job and come to practice every week. And because you win those games early in the week, so everybody communicating with each other, on a different scale now, and I just feel like the mindset is different, so that's the main thing.
Do you almost, looking back, it seemed like for a defense or for any group, you need to hit bottom before you can kind of rise up and become something special almost?
I guess you can say that, That's tough. I don't necessarily think you have to hit rock bottom, but it's good to go through those things, you know? You go through the tough times, and later on when you have them close games, like at the end of the year, you know, you've been there before. So it don't surprise you. Everybody just keep fighting, keep working, keep scrapping.
So much there. I love the talk about communication, but Mace, what stands out to me, and I won't get too deep into this, but there's a mindset you have to have in football and in life. You think about what you don't want and then how to avoid that. Like, I don't want to be broke, so I'm not going to make bad decisions with my money. I don't want to be that defense that gave up 70, so we're going to be playing better. Like, there is a reverse mindset you can have to basically get what you want by knowing what it takes to get where you don't want to be.
Exactly. Don't want to have a lot of credit card debt, so you make sure you're not going into that and exacerbating it, right? You find out what you don't want to do, and then you go forward. So, yeah.
It's partly consequentialism.
Yes.
It's a little bit of natural law, which I love, but like that's a great mindset to have.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's interesting to sort of explore, would the Broncos defense have gotten to this point without having that absolute zero moment in Miami? I'm not sure that it would. Because like they're doing different things tactically, but when you hit that low point, basically then what happens is, all right, anything different is good. You know, there's what was it? Who was it that wrote? Was it Doug Farrar that wrote The Genius of Desperation, or is that somebody else?
I think that was Doug. Yeah.
I think that was Doug.
Yeah. Great friend of the show. One of the best in the world. And the first member of the Queensryche fan club. He lived in Denver. He used to live in Denver, and he was the first member of the Queensryche fan club back in the 80s. So
wow.
I love Doug. I saw Guns N' Roses and Snoop Dogg with Doug at the Super Bowl. So shout out Frank Schwab. And Mike Tanier was there as well. So dear friends. Anytime you ring up Doug Farrar, I'm gonna get a smile on my face, brother.
But the thing is, the Broncos were in a pretty desperate spot after giving up 70 points. And then the week later in Chicago, started off much the same way. I mean, you were going up against a lesser offense, but you still allowed 28 points in the first three quarters. You look like you were going to get run out of the building. That fourth quarter, you started seeing more aggression, and you saw takeaways, right? There are mileposts along the way. It didn't turn around immediately. It wasn't like it did a 180. You had to stop the train going in one direction before you got it turned in the other. Against Chicago was when it stopped, right? It didn't start to, it's like a vending machine, as Jerry Seinfeld said. You don't tip it over. You got to rock it back and forth a few times before it falls, right? The fourth quarter of the Chicago game, the Jets game, the first Chiefs game at Arrowhead Stadium, that's the rocking it back and forth. Even the Packer game as well. Then when the Chiefs come in, and Adam Troutman, we had that soundbite from him yesterday, that's when it started to tip. And now you look, you don't recognize at the time when you're in it, you see it now in reflection of how this thing went. So here we are talking about relevant football, and we're talking about a defense. I mean, as we get into it later on this week, this is one of the best offense versus defense matchups we're going to see in the NFL this year. Jared Goff and Ben Johnson's offense, which has been dynamic all year, although it's hit a snag the last couple of games, against Vance Joseph and a defense that likes to blitz. And the thing is, Jared Goff isn't very good under pressure, right? But the pressure is going to come with blitzing. So I imagine what they're going to work on in Allen Park, Michigan at Lions headquarters this week is going to be, how do we get those hots set up to where when the blitz comes, you know where to go. And then on the Broncos end, it'll be anticipating, what do we think those hot reads are and how are we prepared to jump and make a play. This is going to be a really fascinating tactical chess game between Ben Johnson and Vance Joseph, two guys who might be head coaches going against each other at this time next year.
Right. Yeah, no doubt that's going to be up for the Denver Broncos. And going forward, they've been playing playoff football since they started rocking the vending machine, Mace. And that's why we had the chat room talking about, Eddie brings it up, like Miami losing to the Titans. Well, that's Mike Vrabel going, we're still going to run the ball. We're still going to plug it in with Derrick Henry. We're still going to get you. And that's playoff football. December, the calendar changes. Teams run the ball. Teams play better defense. You kind of tighten up a little bit. The Broncos have been doing that. Detroit doesn't do that. Doesn't mean they can't, especially with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. But, like, the Broncos are already playing playoff football. Detroit's going to have to do that to win.
Funny thing with the Titans is, even though they're sitting at 5-8, they might have little to say about this AFC playoff race as well. The way they're going, and that style of football can throw a wrench into the playoff race. I mean, you looked at that team, what they did in the last 3 minutes. They don't look like they're done just yet.
No, and they definitely have their coach has their ear. That's for sure.
Yes. Well, is anyone surprised that they wouldn't quit on Mike Vrabel? I mean, look, this was a team that, despite being in quarterback chaos, should have probably beaten Jacksonville in Week 18 last year, down in North Florida with Josh Dobbs, barely knowing the scheme. Right. So, one of the things I admire about the Titans is that's a no-excuse team with a no-excuse coach in Mike Vrabel. And very similar to Sean Payton. It's, okay, how do I wring the most out of what I have on hand, right?
Yep.
Not going to give this up. How do I maximize this? How do I minimize the deficiencies the most? That's a lot of coaching in this league, is how do you mask and minimize the deficiencies as much as you can for as long as you can. It's what John Fox did in the Tim Tebow year of 2011, right? It's what the Broncos are doing right now. I mean, like Sean Payton said last Friday, you're not fixing all the problems. It's which ones are urgent to fix and which ones can we fix and will actually improve what we're doing, right? That's a key thing there. I thought what he said had a lot of wisdom, but I'm not going to teach everything. I can't teach everything. We can't get everything down. Which ones are going to make the most difference right now, right? And we've seen that because, look, this Broncos team still has things it does not do well, right?
Right.
I mean, we can go offense and defense. As well as the defense is playing, you know what? They're still missing too many tackles. There's still too many runs that are gashing you. Still too much getting the second level. Still too many gaps in the front seven against the run.
Right.
So, but you've figured out. You've figured things out. Can the Broncos keep figuring it out for another 4 weeks and then get in the postseason? Who knows what can happen?
Make it to the dance. And anything can happen. That's what this team needs to do. We'll see if they can, in fact, do that. Now, you had a chance to catch up with Kareem Jackson yesterday. Tell us about the event. First, we know Kareem's great in the community. We know he's a good man, good heart. But tell us about the event first, Mason. Then we'll get into the very important things that Kareem Jackson said.
He likes to do an event every year where he takes some kids from the local Boys and Girls Club down to a big box store, Walmart, a Target, something like that, and take them on a shopping spree. Kids who are underprivileged can now, they're going to get some things that they want. They can have a nice Merry Christmas. So it's a cool thing he does. Players have done this with the Broncos over the last decade and a half. I've covered a bunch of these.
Wesley Woodyard and the toy drive at the aquarium, I always remember.
Yeah. The thing I like about watching Kareem do this is how active he is. Like, he's like, okay, we're at the pillow pets here, right? Okay, you want this one, you want this one. I mean, he's really watching him really get into it. It's something that's near and dear to his heart. And it's one of the reasons why he's beloved in that locker room is he's got a community mindset to him. By the way, another thing that shows you about the respect for him in the locker room and how united that secondary is in particular. You have teammates there. Yeah. De'Aaron Turner-Yell there. JaQuan McMillian was there. PJ Locke was there. Kareem goes and supports Pat Surtain at his event. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of mutual support going on with those guys. But, of course, when you have an event, the player meets the media. And of course, we know what the subject is going to be, right? It's his suspension. It is, of course, we're starting with the conversation he had with NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell. And he got into that right off the bat when we got through the questions about the event. It was quickly on to the meeting with Roger Goodell a couple weeks back. Let's roll that first footage.
I mean, at the end of the day, I got to still play the game. I'm going to go out and I'll play the game as I have, since 2010. For me, I guess lowering my target even more than I have. As far as trying to protect the guy on the other side, it's impossible. I have no clue as to how I'm supposed to do that. It's impossible.
And that's the thing. You see, Roger Goodell told Kareem Jackson that you have to account. Let's roll the other footage. Let's roll the other clip really quick.
Okay, yeah, and this is Kareem voicing how he feels and tells you what Roger Goodell told him, which is bogus.
I mean, for me, it was just all about going and, being able to voice, how I feel. I feel a lot better leaving, being able to express myself. But I was told that I'm responsible for the offensive guy's protection. So I'm not really sure how I protect myself, make plays, and protect him as well. But that's what I was told, and I'm not really sure what I do moving forward as far as playing this game. So, hopefully I'll figure it out.
He does have a point here. Okay, let's take one of the hits that led to a suspension. Let's take the Luke Musgrave hit from the Packers game back in October. He got ejected for that. By the letter of the law, it was an illegal hit. At the same time, Luke Musgrave, he's going up for the ball as he's contorting his body to get the pass from Jordan Love. He drops his helmet, and then you have the contact, right? How is the player on defense supposed to account for that? And this is something that you have to say, are we asking something that defies the laws of physics here, right? Especially if you're saying, okay, this is a full-speed game.
It's a collision sport.
It's a collision sport, and it's one. Yeah. Do you want to square up and make a form tackle? Absolutely. But at the same time, he's doing the thing where he wants to go shoulder first, which is, again, if you go shoulder first and you strike the right part of if you strike the what they call the target area, which is in the chest to the chest to the waist, the chest to the thighs, I should say. You don't want to hit the knee, you don't want to hit the head, you don't want to hit the neck area. So he's in position to contact that area for Luke Musgrave, but then Musgrave, as he's contorting, the helmet drops. What can Kareem Jackson do? Or what can any defensive player do? And that's why it's interesting to hear the commissioner say it's on the defensive player to protect the offensive player. Which, I mean, shouldn't there be a sense of, at least a little bit of saying, okay, it's got the offensive player maybe has to find a way to brace oneself. And another thing that Kareem Jackson said, he was talking about the Josh Dobbs hit in the Minnesota game.
Well, this is where I want to jump in.
He went off on Kevin O'Connell for calling the play that led to the quarterback becoming a runner and exposed the quarterback.
If we are going to talk about responsibility, then that has to be part of the conversation. You start finding head coaches or offensive play callers, then things might be a little bit different. I mean, you're going to get knees blown out because your target area is going to drop now. Because when a guy gets hit, he's going to buckle. And when he buckles, his head's going to go forward, and you might hit his head accidentally. You weren't going for his head. You have a nice clean hit that looks dirty because you hit someone really hard and they buckled. But when he goes off on the Josh Dobbs play, and he said it himself, if that's a toss to a running back, we don't even talk about it. That is a run with a quarterback. That's on Kevin O'Connell. Sometimes quarterbacks will scramble, whatever. But again, it's our personal responsibility. Like, when you leave, when you go to run as a quarterback, you better slide, or you better make sure you're not getting hit in those ways. That's on you. It's a responsibility topic for sure that the league just doesn't want to touch.
Well, and the thing is, what we're going to end up seeing is A, it's going to be advantage for the offense. B, when you have a player like Kareem Jackson who is small for his position and relies upon using every part of his body to bring a player down, you have to say, okay, is this player viable going forward? Because he doesn't have the bulk to be able to kind of wrap and bring the player down. It's unfortunate for him. Kareem may be one of the last of that type of player. You know, he's a bit of he's probably a dying breed in this sport, and I imagine this is probably going to be his last season in the NFL. And I would also imagine that when he comes back, PJ Locke will be the starter. Although to discuss injuries, there was an injury report put out today. There wasn't a Broncos practice, but when you're 4 days out from the game, you have to submit a projected injury report.
Right.
And PJ Locke listed as not practicing because of the neck throat injury that he had, which is why the poor guy when he talked in the locker room on Sunday, he could barely talk above a whisper. He was really struggling. And last night said hello to him, and I could tell he didn't want to speak. He basically couldn't really speak at that point.
Right. Mace, I'm going to bring up something not necessarily controversial, but we're going to ask the tough questions and we're going to answer the tough questions, because I was thinking about this earlier today. And I said, you and I will bring the real. You and I will seek the truth and speak the truth. So I'm going to ask you this. When Kareem Jackson returns, is it almost more of a distraction? We've seen some of these players go out of their way, including PJ Locke and Alex Singleton. And Singleton cost the team when he did it. But we've seen players go out of their way to have a little bit of extra physicality. And again, the league's soft, whatever people want to say. But I'm just saying, these guys are responding to supporting their teammate, which is a good thing. But at the same time, the circus that the league has made this, because they won't tell him anything and he has to go seek out Roger Goodell in person. We all know distractions. I don't want this team to be distracted. So I'm asking the question. I have my beliefs, Mace. Let's see what you believe.
I'd like to think it won't be a distraction. I don't know that it won't be. It is one reason why, if things work out for PJ to stay in the lineup as the starter, that's helpful. But here's the thing. If PJ's injury is a multi-week injury, and the other thing on PJ is he does have a history of injuries, right? I mean, he got hurt against the Buffalo Bills. Really, it was all he could, it was all he could do to get back for the Cleveland game. I'm not sure he would have played that Cleveland game if Kareem Jackson had not been dealing with a suspension at that point. So, that with all respect to De'Aaron Turner-Yell, you don't want to go that far down the safety depth chart. So the chances of us seeing Kareem Jackson out there playing, they're pretty, at some point the rest of the way, they're pretty decent. And how does he go about playing? He says he's going to have to be the same type of player, but I mean, they're going to be watching. If it's a playoff game, my goodness, I mean, the spotlight's absolutely going to be on him. And he could be one hit away from being ejected again and you being in a pickle at safety.
Yep.
So that's tough. I don't know. I can't really answer that. I don't know. I mean,
I don't want it to be
what's
something
the right
where they're trying to prove a point. We're supporting our guy, and I'm going to make a big hit, and I'm going to see. I dare you to find me. Well, they're going to find you.
That's what I worry about. I mean, hopefully they'll take it. They'll take it to heart, and they'll understand that maybe there's a target from the officials that they're going to be looking and watching closely. But it's a fine line that you're going to have to walk. I mean, look, Baron Browning got a penalty for a hit that was borderline. Now, that being said, he did have 1 foot off the ground. The NFL changed the definition of launching this year to say it's not 2 feet off the ground, but 1. So it was technically a penalty. But I mean, you look at the penalty that they got for face mask later in that Browns game that Jonathan Cooper got. That wasn't a penalty. But that's the thing you're dealing with right now. And you're going to also deal with teams like the Texans, like C.J. Stroud, who think that maybe they can egg this Broncos team on a little bit. It's something worth watching over the next few games. Actually, the team I would watch to see to test that would be Bill Belichick's New England Patriots. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thing that Belichick may drill into his guys that week. And hey, you can't sleep on that game. They just went to Pittsburgh and won, right? They beat Buffalo at home. You could, you feel pretty good, yeah. But Broncos could lose any of these games. It's
right. You beat Detroit, you're feeling great. You lose to New England, what'd you do?
Did everyone watch? I mean, everyone who watched the games last night and saw Tommy DeVito and the Giants beat the surging Packers, and then Tennessee, which I believe had about a 0.5% chance to win with 3 minutes to go in the game.
27-13.
Yes, came back to win in the dying moments in Miami. So, yeah, I mean, you can't put any of these games in Sharpie as a win for the Broncos, and you're probably gonna see teams try to agitate the Broncos going forward, and they're gonna have to react with sound mind and discipline in order to make sure they're not in trouble.
Mace, you're very disciplined today doing this show when you're not feeling good.
Yeah, gotta. It's a good day to be sick, right? Just a little. I think it's it's not COVID. It's a little sinus infection here. It's all up here, right? It's all up here. Yeah.
You do an neti pot at all? Everyone has opinions in the chat room, like vitamin C. And I probably take about 3,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. But do you ever do a neti pot? You ever do the pour the water down your nose with the sea salt or whatever?
No. I mean, I'll gargle with sea salt because you get post-nasal drip coming down your throat.
Yeah.
I'll gargle to kind of make it easier on my throat. Mm-hmm. But really, it's funny. I can literally feel the sinuses clogging right now as we do this show. I can feel it right now. And as soon as this show is done, it's going to be, boom. It's gonna all come out, I think.
We just went John Madden on us. Boom! What?
Yes.
That's right. When I was young, and it's so funny because in 6th grade we did a poster of your favorite things. Mm-hmm. So I drew a pizza and whatever, and then I drew a can of Coors, and I said it was Colorado Kool-Aid, and then I drew a bottle of Black Velvet, and I said it was cowboy medicine. And my 6th grade teacher, Miss Frank, she was like, "What is this?" And I was like, "Oh, you go to rodeo, drink a little Colorado Kool-Aid. And if you're sick, you do a little cowboy medicine." So, yeah, sometimes when I was sick, Carrie can vouch for me in the chat room. Dad would give us a little shot of Black Velvet.
Yep.
Set it right.
Yeah, but I've got my methodology. And I'll tell you what, I was feeling really bad this morning. I'm feeling much better now. And again, good that it's not COVID. That's the thing. In this day and age, you're always worried that it's COVID. That's why I have some tests at home. So
I'll
be okay.
We've learned many things. Wash your damn hands, but we also learned if you're sick, stay home. Yeah. So if you're sick, stay home. Yeah. I have no issue as a worker, as someone with 3 jobs, basically. If I'm sick, I'm working from home. So it's nice.
It is.
It's nice. There we go. All right. That's a wrap. Mace, go drain your sinuses.
Yep. Hope to feel better. Looking to feel better tomorrow. That's the thing. I think this thing. I haven't been sleeping a lot lately to travel, so I think my body's saying, "Okay, you gotta dial it back." So I'm gonna.
You've been playing hard.
I'm gonna get a good night of rest tonight, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'll do a body good. He is Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammey, and OBT is a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.